room, throws to his left, and the ball is dislodged. Jalen Ramsey, a fifth turnover.
The machine, DK Metcalf.
What a grab by Connor Hayward. And another turnover.
Count of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Picked off. It's Duggar. He shrugged him off with a stiff arm. Aaron Rodgers in for the Pittsburgh Steelers touchdown. Hurls aside one defender. Stiff arms another. Into the end zone. Kenneth Gainwell makes a miraculous catch. Has a man wide open. It's Calvin Austin. Touchdown, Pittsburgh Steelers. Here's the snap. Here's the hold. Here's the boot by Luke. And that kick is no good. No good. Wide right. No he missed it. And your Pittsburgh Steelers are AFC North champions.
CB is here. Playoff Monday is here. Welcome back to the Snap Count Preview Edition on Big Play Sports Network, presented by FanDuel. I'm your host, Trai, Essex, and this is my quarterback and yours, Mr. Charlie Batch. It is game day. It is Playoff Monday, CB. We are prime time tonight. We host the Houston Texans. I'm hyped, brother. I am so crunk for this dang on game. I feel so much better about this game this week than we did going into the Baltimore game last week. I don't know why that is. There's plenty of reasons why, but we are here. We got an invite to the show. We can dance with the partner that came with us, but we can leave with somebody else at the end of the night.
And this is it. You understand that feeling, and we both understand what it's like being in those playoffs when you are the only one playing in that particular time slot. So this is an amazing time of year. The city is electric. I know you're out of town, but man, they have been transformed all week. It's been nothing but black and gold. And you know that one song that they always play that we got tired before we actually went to the Super Bowl, and they start going, you hear the beat, and they go, here we go, Steelers, here we go. Pittsburgh going to the Super Bowl. Here we go. You know, and that's and that song is glaring, and they do features. Absolutely, and they update it every single year, so that's where you're starting to see Aaron Rodgers, DK, all their names mentioned into the particular song, man. So it's an exciting time.
It is, and boy, doesn't a year make a difference? I mean, we got the same exact record going into the playoffs: 10-7 last year. 10-7 this year, but it feels completely different, like 180-degree difference. We lost 4 games, went through that gauntlet of Baltimore, Philly, and Kansas City at the end of last year, limping into the playoffs, and it showed in the playoff game versus Baltimore how we weren't playing our best football at the end of the year. But this year, completely different. Won 4 of 5 games. We looked like the team that we thought we could look like after watching them in the preseason. The defense is starting to stop the run. We drafted Derek Harmon for those very reasons, and they were able, even though Derrick Henry went off a little bit last week, in that second half, we really saw what this run defense is capable of, and we're going to need them to show up tonight as well, because they got to stop a very hot Houston team, one of the hottest Houston teams, or one of the hottest teams in NFL, period. I think they won 9 in a row coming into this playoff game, and so they are a hungry team, started out slow, but got their stuff together, and they're definitely a formidable opponent, and we got our work cut out for us.
And to your point, last year they limped into the playoffs. Not many people gave them any type of chance in that playoff game, but ultimately now here you are with the opportunity to now get hot, like you mentioned, winning 4 of the next 5, and that's why you kind of see the Steelers just kind of let everybody else talk. Because, yeah, you could talk about the 9-game winning streak of the Texans, but people are failing to mention that 4 or 5 because obviously that terrible loss against Cleveland. But these guys have a lot of confidence as they head into this field, and they feel like they truly can compete with anybody that is in the playoff field right now.
And I think the biggest reason why Steeler Nation has that confidence, and it feels different than it did last year, is that man number 8, Aaron Rodgers. It would have felt a lot different going into this playoffs with a different quarterback. But just look at the irony of the guy that took away was the reason why we don't have 7 Super Bowls right now, is now on our team, on our roster, given this squad in this city and just all the state of Western PA, the confidence that we can actually do something meaningful in these playoffs. I don't think it's felt like this since Ben was here. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I would. And I think that's the part that I get excited about because either way, coming into this playoff stretch, they probably would have won 4 of the last 5 anyway. Because if they handled their business against Cleveland, the Baltimore game didn't matter. So you're
Right.
resting all of your players, and yet you're still winning 4 or 5. So this is something I look at this as possibly a blessing in disguise. And I say that because it forced them to have to play in week 17. So now these guys, there is no law. They are now have to going right into the playoff week and keeping the momentum going.
Before we get into the nitty gritty of our matchup this evening, man, there has been some amazing football being played in both the NFL to start of wild card weekend and in college football. These NFL games have been insane. With the exception of last night's, the last game with New England versus the Chargers, every single playoff game has come down to the last 2 minutes of the game, and every single playoff game has been decided by one score or less. And it's been pretty awesome to see so far. It's a very competitive field, and I think this year more so than any other year, there is no clear front runner. Like when you watch that San Francisco game, all those players are injured. George Kittle tears his Achilles in the first quarter, and somehow they still find a way to come and beat the defending champions on their home turf. And so when you look at these playoffs as a whole, and when you look at the AFC as a whole, it's really anybody's game.
And everybody was waiting for that blowout game. And of course, everybody was pointing toward that Rams Panthers game. And of course, when the Rams got up on them 7-0, and like, oh, there's the game right here. But man, you have to credit Carolina because those guys fought. They held the lead up until the last few seconds of that game, and it
Mhm.
forced the Rams and Matthew Stafford, who ultimately is the front runner for MVP this
Yep.
year, putting a drive together and leading his team. That's exactly why I fully expect him to be the MVP in this particular season. But man, it's been a great playoff matchup up until this point. Let's keep it going tonight.
The dude Caleb Williams for the Bears, he kind of had his coming out party, right? He put that team on his back. They were down what 19 points going into the fourth quarter, and not just a normal opponent. These are the Green Bay Packers who have had the Chicago Bears numbers from the time that Aaron Rodgers was there, and even afterwards with Jordan Love and company. They were able to overcome a division opponent and one of the better rivalries in the entire NFL. I mean, I think Baltimore Pittsburgh is probably number one. I'm not. I'm being a little biased, but I think a lot of a large swath of the people who watch football would agree with that. And then you got Green Bay and Chicago with their historical battle, and that was something to watch as well.
It was, and when you look at everybody giving flack to the coach and how he's talking about F the Packers and those type of thing, he gave you the blueprint when he took the job.
Right.
My job is to go out there to beat the Packers and Matt LaFleur. This is what I'm trying to do. And
Hmm.
now he was able to back it up because everybody pointed to that handshake, how it was kind of a, he was selfish and childish by not shaking and spending time there as a coach. Like, no, he meant it, and he spoke on business at that particular point. His team backed him on it, and you can see the impact and how excited those guys were in the locker room because they truly feel they belong at this point. But to your point of Caleb Williams, man, this guy here is playing fantastic. And this is why he was the number one pick. We know everybody tries to knock you down when you are the number one pick, but yet in year two, he is building himself quite a resume right now. When you talk about being with the first 4,000-yard passer, then turning around and building and putting together these come from behind wins, this is exactly what they would hope he would be at this particular point. And man, they should be excited about what's going on in Chicago because I love to watch young guys develop in their young career into hopefully the stars that we hope that they become.
And it just feels like when you look at Caleb Williams, he hasn't even touched the surface of what he's truly capable of. You see the arm talent, and you see that he's capable of coming through in a big way in the biggest moments. There's still some things that you want to handle with him with quarters 1 through 3 and just playing a complete game. But when the lights are the brightest, he seems to show up in a big way. And I think that he gets that confidence from who I think probably should be if he's going to be in the top 3 for coach of the year in Ben Johnson. I think ultimately Vrabel ends up winning it for the turnaround he had in New England, or even Kyle Shanahan has a good say for it with all the injuries he's done. But you can't really downplay what Ben Johnson has done in a city that has perennially been not very competitive in the NFC North, hasn't had consistency at the quarterback position, just had their first 4,000-yard passer ever, which is crazy when you think about the history of the Bears and what they meant to the NFL. And Caleb Williams is doing that. And it just feels like this team has the makings of being something special in the NFC, not only this year and doing some damage this year, but moving forward as well.
They do, and I think when you look at just from the coach of the year, man, that's an open is open as well. And I think ultimately there's no clear front runner with this. Another name I would throw out there is Sean Payton out there in Denver.
Oh yeah,
Nobody expected them to be in that particular man. They expected them to be in the playoff, but not the number one seed on the bye. So again, there are a lot of many different deserving candidates, and it's going to be interesting to see ultimately what the voters decide.
yeah. And Jacksonville has a say too. And Liam Cohen, I know they didn't have the result that they wanted to have. They were competitive. I thought Trevor Lawrence is turning the corner. He's been a much maligned quarterback because he was supposed to be a godsend to whatever franchise he get drafted to. He was supposed to be the next Peyton Manning or the next Andrew Luck, and it hasn't turned out that way up until this point. But they were able to put together a really good season. Also, with Houston being one of the hottest teams, I think they had won 7 in a row. But ultimately, they lost to that man, Josh Allen, and the Buffalo Bills. When you look at this field and you look at the things that separate teams from other teams, and we have one of those X factors at quarterback and Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen is that for Buffalo. No matter how well or how bad that team is playing, there's always a chance when you got Josh Allen back there taking snaps that team is going to come out with a victory. You don't want to be in a one-score game with Josh Allen. He just showed you why versus Jacksonville.
This is why he's showing you he's the MVP last year, because he makes plays like this and been doing so. And he just needed to get over that hurdle. And that hurdle obviously was Patrick Mahomes. But with him not being in the playoffs at this particular point, and we're wishing him a speedy recovery, this is Josh's opportunity. Josh wants to say, hey, now I can do this. And now it's a tougher road than what he's had in the past. He has to go through Denver, which is going to be challenging. But again, everything is right out there for him, because those are the games that will play right away. But as we kind of circle back, we know that there are a team in Pittsburgh that feels like they are deserving of being in that conversation as well. And that's why I say, when you look at just the field as a whole, I don't think anybody in there, every team is feeling the same way that they have a chance this year.
Right. And that's enough talking about the undercards, man. Let's get to the main event, right? The main heavyweight event tonight versus the Houston Texans. Now, they don't have a very strong history of going against CJ Stroud. I think we played them once. I can't remember what the results were, but I don't think Houston's been up to Pittsburgh too many times in recent history, and not this iteration with DeMeco Ryans. But DeMeco was able to take a team that struggled out the gates, and they never lost the confidence, even though their main quarterback, CJ Stroud, got hurt early in the year. They got a backup in Davis Mills, who was the starter before CJ came in, was able to stay the ship for a while there until CJ came back, and they got hot at the right time. They got a running back in Woody Marks, rookie running back that has come on in a big way. They still got the veteran Nick Chubb. And when you look at their offense, their wide receivers is probably where their strength lies. They have one of the best in Nico Collins, a Michigan guy. Probably some of the strongest hands in the NFL. Very underrated because he's not super flashy. You don't hear a whole bunch about him, but he is super talented, and he's definitely CJ's number one receiver. They got a great tight end in Dalton Schultz, who came. I think he's been in Houston for like 3 years now. Really made his name in Dallas with the Cowboys some years back. And then they got a young rookie in Jaden Higgins, who I think is coming on in a big way at the end of the year. And so when you look at this offense, when you look at Houston, you look what DeMeco's been able to do with this team. They're coming in with a lot of firepower and a lot of confidence that they can come in and make a run in the NFL playoffs.
And that's where a lot of answers are lying on that side, at least questions that are lying on the offensive side of the ball. Because again, their instability that they had throughout the course of the season, all the focus have been on that defensive side of the ball. And when you have a defense as good as they are, they're going to create more opportunities and more possessions for you to get the offense going. And that's essentially been the formula for the Texans as they move forward on that 9-game winning streak. So right now, this is going to be something that CJ Stroud has to answer, because truly he has to go on the road. He hasn't been able to win on the road at playoff game. This is going to be something for me. At least I think that is the stat that I thought. Ultimately, this is going to be a big test with the rest of the country all watching to see if he's able to take that next step. Because we saw what happened when Davis was in there. Now can CJ now prove to the doubters that he can get it done?
Okay. We will have a true home field advantage. To your point, he has not won a road playoff game, and he has not won when the temperature has been 35 or less. I think we saw a similar stat when Tua came up to Pittsburgh and his issues in cold weather. And CJ, despite the fact he's a Ohio State kid, so he's played in the elements before, but I think maybe he's gotten used to that Houston weather and those indoor controlled climate temperatures down at where Houston plays. I think it's Reliance Stadium. It was Reliance Stadium when we were there. They probably got a new sponsor now, but yeah, he has struggled on the road, especially in cold weather. And I think we truly, when you talk about home field advantage and the field issues in Pittsburgh that we've had and have been well documented throughout the year, you got to hope that this D line, the Will Andersons and the Daniil Hunters, won't be able to get the same type of footing that they do on the artificial turf and in warm weather climates. They won't be able to get that in our shore. So it should help our offensive line, I think, contain them a little bit. They are still tremendous playmakers. And it's not only them, they have a tremendous secondary that helps keep everything in front of them, which gives the time to Daniil Hunter and Will Anderson to get and create havoc in the backfield. But I truly think that with us hosting this game, with it being the temperature that it's going to be, because right now I think it's what is it right now? It's like 34 or less, and it's probably going to hit like 20 or 15 by the time kickoff starts. We
34 right now.
34 right now. That's good football, Pittsburgh, Western PA weather, not Houston Texans weather. Okay. And so we will have a true home field advantage today, and we need to take full advantage of it.
And this is why you want the home playoff game. This is why you strive so much to win the division, because that guarantees you a home game. And the fans have been electric all season, but then now it turns up a little bit when the playoffs happen. And people are like, how can it turn up? They're always loud. Like, no, trust me, when you are in playoff football, it gets a little louder, and they have to be able to impact this game and make it difficult for that Houston offense, especially those linemen up front, because you know they're probably going to work on a silent count. And if that's the case, crowd get louder. That means that offensive line gets off a split second slower. And now that we have to take advantage of that with the pass rushers that we have on the defensive side of the ball. So this is going to be critical. So anybody who's going to be at Acrisure Stadium tonight, make that noise, because you are going to impact this game.
Wave those towels, make that noise. I know it's not going to be a problem of us making noise, because I feel it. Like, I even feel it down here. The day after we beat Baltimore, and look, I live just outside of Atlanta. I wouldn't consider Atlanta like the most diehard sports fan base there is. There are other cities that I think of when I think about cities that really support their pro teams. Pittsburgh, obviously, being one of them. Philadelphia, Boston. Those are like sports cities. Chicago, New York. I don't think that in Atlanta, and it's because there's so many transplants. But the one thing I do see a lot of, as soon as I put on that Pittsburgh Steelers hat, or if I have any kind of black and yellow, I don't have to lack for finding fans, even way down here south in Atlanta, Chuck, because Steeler Nation is hype. I feel it through social media. I feel it when I'm just walking out here, whatever, 800 miles away south of Pittsburgh. Steeler Nation is hype, and they're hype everywhere.
They are, and Atlanta is a huge spot. Obviously, like you talked about, the transplants that come in there, and anytime the Steelers play down there, that is a tough ticket to get. Where sometimes, you go on the road, you're able to pick up some of those tickets, but man, it's tough because Steelers fans travel, or the ones who are implanted into that city are now going out there and they're repping their city and repping their team. So it's always a fun time, and it's always cool when you see that and go on the road. And the one thing I always love is whenever you have the opposing teams media say, please don't sell your tickets to Steeler fans. That is beauty. So you already know you want it mentally when you arrive in that city. But being that this game is home, again, it's a tough ticket to get. And I don't anticipate a lot of Texans fans in the stands tonight.
Ain't no nation like Steeler Nation, CB. Ain't no nation like Steeler Nation. And they're going to show out in a big way. And they're going to be a huge factor, right? They're going to be a key to us winning, amongst other keys. So I want to start out with our keys to victory. I'm going to start out with mine, and you know where I'm going when I talk about keys of victory. It starts right here. And when I say 30 touches for gain and pain, or pain and gain, however you want to say it, the law firm of Bourne and Gainwell, they have to touch the ball 30 plus times. Every single game down the stretch that we've won, they've touched the ball 30 plus times. We need a large dose of that. And that comes with not only them playing well, seeing the blocks in front of them, getting out in open spaces, but it takes the O-line. The O-line that I've been so impressed with, how much they've grown this year, how much they've matured this year. This is their first playoff game. these are a whole bunch of, well, not their first playoff game. This is the first iteration, this first playoff game for this iteration of this O-line, right? It's going to be Dylan Cook, first time blocking at left tackle in a playoff game. It's going to be Troy Fontanu's first time playing in a playoff game. Now, Mason and Zach were able to get some experience last year, but these 5 guys have to play well. And if they play well and Gain and Payne get 30-plus touches, I think we have a good shot at winning this game. Secondly, we got to get pressure without bringing the extra guy. That's something that we've been struggling with. CJ needs to fill us, right? There's nothing that gets that Steeler Nation crowd hyped than when TJ Watt is doing a big old boot celebration. I don't know what he calls it, the kick or whatever. I always feel like he's about to pull his hamstring when he does it, but so far, so good. If we get TJ back there, this crowd is going to get hyped. If Highsmith plays how he's been playing, this crowd is going to get hyped. And then we need some Nick Herbig inserted in there. I have no problem at all, or have no qualms at all knowing what Cam Hayward's going to do. What he did last week was one of the best performances ever for a D tackle in a crucial moment. So I know he's going to show up in a big way. The way Keanu Benton is playing, he's been playing so good. And so between those 4, Highsmith, Benton, Cam, TJ, if we could just get pressure from them without having to devote the extra guy in pressure, I think this goes a long way. CJ doesn't have the time that he has to go through this progression. And I think this offense for Houston gets bogged down a little bit, because if we have 7 guys in coverage, I think CJ is going to have a tough time trying to figure out who's going to get the ball. So we need to get pressure from TJ. We need to get pressure from Highsmith, and we need Keanu and Cam to collapse that pocket to make things easier for our outside rushers. And then, like I've already been hyping on, you got to use Steeler Nation. You know, nobody is better at using the crowd and using the environment than number 8, Mr. Aaron Rodgers. He knows how to get those hidden yardage, those extra 5 yards when you're trying to sub out to match personnel. He tried to do it a lot in Baltimore last week, and we had to use timeouts, but Baltimore was hip to it. Kudos to them. But he is such a wily vet. He knows how to take advantage of the crowd noise or the lack thereof and get his guys to where he needs to get to. This defense, like I said, have to make big plays to get this crowd involved, because I think if Acrisure Stadium starts rocking, it's going to be a huge advantage for us as a team.
No, I'm with you on it. And I think our keys align, and especially my first one that we have here. You have to make CJ Stroud uncomfortable. To your point, get to him without blitzing. You now have to get him off of his spot. Do not allow him to get back on rhythm, delivering the football. Make him hold on to that football. Double pump there for a hot second to allow the pass rush to get to him or force him to run with the football. So that's going to be key. Make CJ uncomfortable. Number 2, no turnovers. They cannot afford to have turnovers in this game, because the formula for this team winning throughout the course of this season consistently create the turnovers, capitalize on the turnovers offensively. So hopefully that defense can create the turnovers and ultimately offensively be able to put this ball into the end zone. Field goals are okay, but we want the ball into the end zone to create that separation from a score standpoint. And number 3, it's okay to punt the ball, because you have 2 of the top defenses that are coming in here. You know it's going to be tough. These guys ultimately are going to now force those 3 and outs, maybe a 6 and out, whatever that looks like. But ultimately, field position is going to be a factor. So see, when you look at Corliss Waitman, this guy has to be a weapon. When you have an opportunity to pin Houston's offense inside the 10-yard line, you have to pin them down with those kicks. Those are the hidden yardage that are going to have to play out in this game. So special teams are going to be key, and it's going to figure out which punter is ultimately are going to be more consistent in this game.
Yeah, speaking of that, Ben Skowronek, we need him and Carson Bruno to have huge games. You've been a big fan of both. And so coverage is going to be important, especially on those punts where Waitman has to get him inside the 10-yard line. I was kind of upset, going off on a tangent a little bit, that Skowronek didn't get 1 All-Pro vote. I thought he was the best special teams player in the entire league. He didn't get 1 All-Pro vote. The only people that got a vote this year were on the defensive side of the ball, which is fine. Cam deserved it. I thought he deserved first team, not second team. But I thought Ben would have got at least 1, right? Or Boswell, somebody.
You would think so, but I think I don't know if you saw the tweet over the weekend, but it was Kurt Warner, and he talked about how this is his first opportunity to vote. And as he was going through the whole process, he was realizing, wait a minute, you don't have the expertise in the room to actually vote and make those decisions, especially when you are not an expert in a certain position. So he
Mhm.
was actually challenging people out there to say, hey, why don't we get experts? Hey, he talked about himself being a quarterback. He knows expertise on what the quarterback play is supposed to look like. But does he know that with the defensive line? No. So it's
Mhm.
very unfair for him to now have to vote on another position when he's not watching them on the regular. So I'm just hoping that Kurt Warner and his tweet, hopefully it carries legs. Hopefully it keeps the conversation going as you move into the offseason to maybe change up what that process looks like to maybe get those votes. And then that's when you'll see the Ben Skoronix, who you might have a special teams player voting and say, you want to know what? That guy is playing unbelievable. And it's amazing what 2 years have done for Ben Skoronix, because 2 years ago against Atlanta, Mike Tomlin didn't even know his name when he
Mhm.
made a play in special teams. And now here he is 2 years later, a Pro Bowler. Hats off for Skoronix for putting his head down, delivering, and getting the work done, because now everybody appreciates what you've done from the outside, but people on the inside knew what you were capable of doing. Congratulations, Ben Skoronix, even though you did not get an all-pro vote.
Hey, you know what city he's from, right?
Okay, let
Good
the people
old,
know, Trey.
good old Fort Wayne, Indiana, the pride of Homestead High School by way of Northwestern and Notre Dame. So we have a lot of similarities. And so I hope actually he takes another similarity and helps be a part of a team that's on its way to the Super Bowl. But as we look at these matchups and from a position standpoint, starting with the quarterback, who has the advantage? I think we both agree that experience matters. When you get to the playoffs and you got a quarterback who's done the things that Aaron Rodgers has been able to do throughout the history of his career, arguably the best thrower of the football of all time, has a Super Bowl under his belt, has multiple AFC or NFC championship appearances, um, has the motivation to want to end his career on a high note. All that combined, when you look at who he's going against on the other side of the ball, CJ Stroud, great young quarterback. I think he has some Super Bowl appearances in his future, but he doesn't have them now. He doesn't have the experience now. And so when you look at and you take all that into consideration, you got to give A-Rod the clear advantage here. Even though I think CJ has more weapons on his side of the ball, at least more established weapons, I think when you got a guy like Aaron Rodgers leading the way with his experience, you got to go with him having the advantage.
Yeah, I'm with you on it. I'm giving the experience because the advantage to Aaron Rodgers here because of the experience that he has. But man, CJ, when you look at over the last couple of years, he does have playoff victories under his belt. So this is not new to him. The only
Mhm.
thing new to him is going on the road and having to win a game. Hopefully, the fans give an opportunity to make him a little hesitant back there and make it a little bit tougher for him to do his job. But when you look at just the experience factor, this is why Aaron was brought here. When you look at his season, really played fantastic. When you look at it, yardage just wasn't there, but that's not the offense that you have here at this particular point. He is not going to beat you, and he's not going to put you in a position that's going to turn the football over. That's why I'm giving Aaron Rodgers the advantage here.
When you look at the running back position, did you know, and I think you did, we have the only pair of running backs with 1,000 yards, all purpose yards, the only duo in the entire NFL. And there's been a lot of great running backs this year, but I think we started to realize, especially in the second half of the season, how much they mean to this offense, how well Jalen Warren has run the ball, the way he runs the ball, I think energizes this team, energizes this O-line with the amount of effort, how tough he runs, all the broken tackles. You get him the ball, you know something's good going to happen. Gainwell, Mr. Reliable, has been there, made some huge plays for us. We're not in this position without our Steelers MVP in Kenneth Gainwell, who's put on and has earned himself a contract extension. I don't see him leaving Pittsburgh. He's definitely earned himself some money, and that was A-Rod's plan all along. Now, Houston on the other side of the ball has a chiseled veteran and Nick Chubb, albeit not the same Nick Chubb that used to terrorize us when he was in Cleveland. He's a lesser version of it, but still effective. But they got a really good running back in Woody Marks, who has done some good things in the second half of the season. But I think when you look at what our duo has been able to do, and if Arthur Smith stays committed to giving them the ball over and over again and just wearing this Houston defense out, and you have to, because what happens, it gets a little hard to tackle when it's 25 degrees outside. Things hurt a little bit more when it's 25 or below outside. And when you run the ball like Jalen Warren does, those guys aren't going to want to be tackling him like that in the third and fourth quarter. So I give us an advantage at the running back position as well.
Yeah, I'm going advantage Steelers as well. And I'm giving that because when you look at years past, when you had Najee Harris, you had Jalen Warren, the offense changed because you had a power back versus a shifty guy in Jalen Warren. Right now, the offense does not change whether Kenneth Gainwell is on the field or Jalen Warren. And that's
Right.
what gets people excited about it. So from a tendency standpoint, you can't call and say, Gainwell's in the game, sprint or draw, little
Mhm.
things like that that defenses can pick up on. And because of the game earlier this year against Minnesota that Jalen Warren missed, this was an opportunity for Gainwell to show why they brought him here, but also showing what he did in Philadelphia because the Steelers saw the tape that he did when he actually had to spill um, uh, what's the backup
Saquon.
there? Saquon. You had
Mhm.
this spill Saquon Barkley up there, and those plays resonated with Tomlin. That's why they brought him over here on this particular roster. And that's the beauty of watching his offense unfold because regardless of who is on the field, they both do similar things. And that's why it makes them dangerous. And defenses has to play honest run and pass, regardless of what back is in the backfield. That's why I'm going with the Steelers in this department.
There we go. And you know who's going to have the biggest effect on whether Gainwell and Warren are successful is the O line. And Chuck, when I look at this O line coming into this season, we both know it was the biggest question mark on this team. Where they are right now, after 18 weeks of football, it's nothing less than I'm not going to say a miracle, but it's been quite a story, an amazing story. What Pat Meyer has been able to do, what Arthur Smith has been able to do to get this O-line where they are. The fact that they've stayed relatively healthy, at least from the center, right guard, and right tackle over. Now, Isaac has had his issues, and we've had a rotating door at left tackle, but Dylan Cook has seemed to has stabilized that left tackle position. And it's going to be interesting what's going to happen in the offseason with him. But hopefully we don't got to think about that anytime soon. But when you look at this O-line and what they've been able to do, I am so proud. I'm like a proud papa back here because I've watched the entire story unfold. I've graded them every week on the Trench Report, and they had some bad games to start this season, and now they're putting stuff together, and they are the most consistent unit on this group. And it's such a domino effect when you look on what the outcome is from an offense and even from a defensive standpoint, because all of a sudden we're winning time of possession more often. We are controlling the clock more often. We are getting third and shorts more often. And it's because this O-line is protecting their butt off for Aaron Rodgers and opening up holes for the law firm of Gainwell and Warren. And so when you look at our O-line and then you see Houston's O-line who has struggled, granted, it's better than what it was to start the year, but it's still a struggling and a work in progress. They've had some injuries to contend with. They got a guy in Trent Brown that's been there and done that, but he's getting up there in age. And I think TJ Watt is licking his chops because Trent Brown is like 6'8", 360 pounds. He's a great man of a mountain, but TJ likes going against those tall guys because he can bend around them and get to the quarterback a little bit easier. So it's going to be interesting how they deploy and how they help them. But I think from an O-line perspective, we have the clear advantage.
Yeah, I'm with you on for all the reasons that you just mentioned there. But that Steelers O-line, they have been the most impressive group to watch the growth and development over the course of the season. And I've learned a lot with the trench reports because there are things that you see that I don't see because obviously you're the expert and I'm not. But just to see those guys that are ultimately gelling, and we have to credit Pat Meyer. This
Mhm.
guy, coach. It's always coaching when it's bad, but they never want to give the coaches credit when it's
Yeah.
good. And this guy has been stable throughout. Kudos to him for getting that young group together because challenging those guys at the beginning of the season when everybody said, what's your strength of the team? What's the weakness? And everybody pointed to the offensive line as the weakness. These guys had continued to be consistent. It starts with Isaac Siamalo. This guy is phenomenal, regardless of who he is playing with
Mhm.
to his left. But
Mhm.
obviously, the brains of the operation start with the middle, and that's obviously going to be Zach Frazier. And that guy has been developing, and man, he plays with a lot of confidence. And I'm just excited to watch this young group. So, with all that being said, these guys, I'm giving you the advantage.
Amen. Just give me all the good warm and fuzzies when we talk about how good this O-line has played. I could spend another 20 minutes talking and singing their praises, but we shall move on. Wide receivers and tight ends. Now, this was closer than some may think. Now, Nico Collins is a beast. like I said, some of the strongest hands in the NFL. But when you counter him with DK Metcalf, then I think the advantage kind of gets evens out. As far as number one receivers, I take DK up next to anybody. But after that, I think that's when Houston has a clear advantage. You got a number two in Jaden Higgins, who has come on in a big way. Woody Marks is very active in their run game or in their pass game as well. But I think what puts Houston over the top is their willingness to use Dalton Schultz over the middle. He led the team with 82 catches this year. He was the target that CJ goes to. He is the premium safety blanket for this Houston Texans team. And if it was just a talent thing, I think I would have said it was even across the board. But the way they use their wide receivers and tight ends, I got to give the advantage to Houston because I think they just put them in better positions to succeed than Arthur Smith has done with our receiving core so far.
Yeah, I'm with you as well. I'm going with the Texans for the advantage in this group, and I think they ultimately have a little bit better passing offense that way. But a
Mhm.
lot of it just comes down to the fact of how are the Steelers going to play them? Are they now going to use JPJ to now move around? Is he going to match up with a certain receiver, or are you going to try to switch it up? For me, I would switch it up and force CJ to actually read as he's dropping back. Give him a pre-snap read, force him to now absorb all of the information. So by the time he hits 5, is he going to be able to read it and deliver properly, or is he going to hold on to that particular football? So you have to mix it up. Even though he's seen a lot of ball, you want to mix it up to not be consistent, because if you line up pure man to man, it makes a quarterback job a lot easier when you know where your first read is going to go. So they just have to mix it up. But I just think collectively as a group, I'm looking at the I'm looking at the tight end group specifically. Why I give the advantage there only because you don't have Darnell Washington there. But to your point,
Mhm.
everything is pretty much a wash. I just think that they may have a better run opportunity because as the Texans are coming here in the 4-3 defense, the key matchup is going to be defensive end, tight end. That was the reason why Darnell Washington took over tight end position number 1. Now the challenge is going to be there for Freiermuth. So I hope I'm wrong in this particular case, but we'll ultimately see when we do our recap show. Whoever has the better rushing yards in this particular game, that means that tight end group did a better job.
Amen. And obviously, when we move over to the defensive side of the ball, going to be crucial in determining who wins the rushing battle or lack thereof rushing yards. And so this one was tough. The way Cam played last week, the way Keanu Benton played last week, the way Derek Harmon played, got out to a slow start but finished strong. The way he played last week, the way Highsmith has been playing, I wanted to give them the advantage here. But Houston has a vaunted defensive front. They have a Daniil Hunter who has 15 sacks this year. They have a Will Anderson who has 12 sacks, but his biggest thing, he is just a disruptor. He has 20 tackles for loss this year. I think second only to Myles Garrett. Um, and when you look at, they got Derek Barnett on the inside, who has been tough to deal with on the inside. When you look at all that, and when you look at the fact that Houston has won with defense, that's how they've won. The offense hasn't been great. When you look at their numbers, they are 6th against the pass, 4th against the run, 2nd with points given up, and which makes them the number 1 overall defense in the entire NFL when you look at yards per game, and they're 2nd in how many points they give up. And a large reason of that, or the biggest reason for that, is their defensive line. So I'm giving Houston the slight advantage because I think Pittsburgh can outplay them if they play like they did last week in the second half, because that first half was a little shaky. If they play like they did in the second half, then I think Pittsburgh can overcome this. But as it stands right now, I got to give Houston the credit.
Yeah, all the reasons that you just gave for that Houston defensive line, I'm giving the advantage to the Texans as well. But this is the one that and look, as Coach Tomlin looks for different ways to motivate guys. All of a sudden, you just start walking past that defensive line group saying, "Well, I'm looking at the number two defensive line in this game." So little nuggets like that, he's going to now toss out there to get Cam motivated, to get the Keanu Benton, Derek Harmon. Hey, this your first playoff game, young fella. What you gonna do?
Mm-hmm.
They're not even mentioning your name this week. So this is what motivates me. And I kind of looked at it. It could potentially be a tie, but I just have to give the advantage right there on that defensive line of the Texans, because when you're looking at the Marco Ryan, man, this guy, former defensive coordinator, this guy knows how to switch things up. So it's going to be a test. And this is why Aaron Rodgers has to use the snap count, no pun intended, as a weapon
Yeah, I
today.
see it. I see it. Gotta drop the name, man. I love it. I love it. I love it. Yeah, I agree. I agree. When you look at the linebackers now, our guys have struggled, and but they have picked it up a little bit. Patrick Queen, Peyton Wilson, Cole Holcomb, Malik Harrison. We need them to step up. It's been a mixed bag this year. We've had some high highs and we've had some low lows. We've missed more tackles than I would like from us, from that linebacking crew. But they've also made some big plays. But when you look at Houston's, they have EJ Speed. They have probably one of the hardest hitting linebackers in Aziz Al-Shier. I think that I pronounced that right. Al-Shier. He's their emotional captain because he plays with a lot of heart. He comes down and he's not afraid to lay the wood. And they got another guy, a young guy in Tua. I think I'm probably messing up his name too, but Tua is the other guy who's been really good and really active, has gotten back in the backfield, 9 tackles for loss for the year. I'm giving them the credit and the advantage from the linebacker standpoint, but it's something that we can overcome if Patrick Queen and Peyton Wilson play downhill. Do not let Woody Marks make a mark in this game. Shut that rookie down and make Nick Chubb an afterthought. If you do that, then you get the advantage. But as it stands right now, I think Houston has the advantage of the linebacker position.
Yeah, I'm with you as well. I'm giving the Texans the advantage as well. When you just look at the group overall, Steelers have a lot of missed tackles throughout the course of the season. They have to correct that. But what better way to do that in the playoffs? And ultimately, when you look at just overall, I'm giving that advantage to the linebacker position. So I'm hoping that maybe there's fuel to the fire as it relates to that linebacker group, proving that, hey, we're not playing second fiddle to nobody. We want to have the opportunity to make an impactful game. So that linebacker group of the Steelers are going to have more tackles for losses in this game to put those offenses behind the change. I don't know if that happens. We haven't seen it done consistently up until this point. That's why I'm going with the Texans linebackers right now.
And when you look at the back end, the secondary, this is the group that I think Houston has the clearest advantage in. And that has a lot to say because I think JPJ has been hands down one of the best corners in the league. But Houston has a group of 4 guys. Chuck, they all have 4 interceptions, every single one of them. Derek Stingley Jr., who's one of the best young corners in the league. Love his game. The other corner opposite him, Lassiter, has 4 picks. And then their safety duo of Petrie and Bullock also have 4 picks. Every single one of their members in their secondary knows how to get their hands on the ball and knows how to take advantage of it when the opportunity arises. They don't drop picks. They all can catch the ball and all are a big reason why the Houston Texans are plus 17 in turnover differential, which places them second in the league behind the Bears. And so the secondary, you see Will Anderson and you see Daniil Hunter. They probably get the majority of the credit. I think the real heroes of this defense is that secondary. Is Stingley, is Lassiter, is Petrie, is Bullock. I think that's where they have the clearest advantage. We've given up way too many things in the back end in the worst possible times. Kyle Duggar, for whatever reason, has not played his best ball down the stretch and has given up too many big plays. I think Jalen Ramsey feels a little bit overwhelmed because he feels like he has to make up for some things that maybe Duggar hasn't been able to do. And JPJ is still his solid self. Brandon Echols is still playing well. And we got James Pierre back playing some good ball. But it's the safety positions that give me the most worry right now. And I think Houston definitely doesn't have those same worries.
No, they don't. And I think you look back, the safety tandem of the Texans are a lot better shaped than what the Steelers are. And there are reports that maybe Kyle Duggar may not see as much action this week. So that's going to be something that we pay attention to. Don't know how factual it is, but we'll pay attention to that in the first series or two to see who is a starter out there. And that's the case. Maybe we're looking at a Chuck Clark that could potentially be a starter in this week's game. But man, what we saw last week against the Ravens, the big plays that they gave up, that is a concern. And you better believe that the Texans are going to go back, figure out if they can now put formations and motions and create those same situations that the Ravens were able to hit those big plays on to be able to take advantage of that. You don't worry about that on the back end of the Texans. It's going to be interesting to see. Do they use Stingley and say, we're going to put him on DK Metcalf, play man-to-man? Or do you now roll coverage to that side where DK is at, put man-to-man on maybe a Calvin Austin, take him out of the game one-on-one, and make everybody else beat you. So they have a lot more options on that secondary of the Texans than what we do on the Steelers secondary side. So because of those concerns of what I saw last time, I'm just giving the advantage to the Texans here.
Yeah, I agree with you. Moving over to the third phase of the game, special teams. Now, this is a different one for us because this gave me a little concern. It's one position I didn't think we had any issues with until we gave up that big return in the fourth quarter versus the Ravens. That kind of set up their whole comeback attempt at the end of the game. Thank goodness it didn't come to fruition. But that was the first time that it looked leaky from a coverage standpoint. But I still think we got the best special teams player in the league in Ben Skoranek. Now, Houston, something unique. A lot of their points come via the field goal. Fairburn is having one of the best years ever for a field goal kicker. I think he has something like 48 kicks, which is far and away number one in the league. So they take the points. Houston's not afraid. They're not like Dan Campbell going for all these fourth downs and stuff. If they get in field goal range, they have a kicker that's been consistent and has made more field goals by far than anybody in the league. Now, I'm hoping that the defense limits them and doesn't let them get into those positions to kick those field goals because he has definitely been a weapon. And so it's why I give us the advantage because I think Ben Skoranek is the X factor for this special teams. Carson Bruner, who's been coming on in a big way, who you've been a big fan of, son of Steelers legend Mark Bruner, who came in as a rookie and made his imprint on this team and has been an invaluable piece of the special teams unit, especially since we lost Miles Killebrew earlier in the year. So we needed somebody to step up. So that is why I give us the advantage ever so slightly because we still have Mbaz we trust too, right? And he's kicking in a place where nobody else kicks as good as him in. And so when you think about that and you think about the fact that I don't know if Fairburn gets the same footing. He's at a large portion of his kicks in the indoor down in Houston. And so it's going to be different kicking in that Acrisure Stadium with gusts, I've heard, up to 20, 25 miles per hour. And we see how big and impactful kickers have been so far in these playoffs. And so I think we have the advantage ever so slightly, but Houston also has a good unit as well.
Yeah, they really do. And this is the advantage I'm giving to the Steelers as well because they understand the elements that they're playing with. This is why pregame matters. And I say that because you want to go out there well before the team gets out there. When you're going through your pregame routine, you want to get out there. You want to now study kind of what the wind patterns are going to be, what direction that you like to kick, that you probably are going to predict more points are going to be scored going one direction versus the other. And I would always go out there, talk to the kicker, talk to the punter, figuring out what the wind patterns are because at Acrisure Stadium, it can be blowing in one direction when you kind of get midway up. But once you get higher up towards the goalpost and above the goalpost, it's swirling in a different direction. So those are things that ultimately I think that will have the advantage. And to your point, I know Boswell is upset because of the kicks that he's missed over the last few weeks. But I still have full confidence in this guy. This guy's going to get it done. And if he needs to go out there and nail a 55-yarder, I have full confidence that he is going to go out there and do that. He has not lost confidence in himself. I have not lost confidence in him. And I am completely okay with him trotting onto the field because this guy's been doing it at a consistent level. And ultimately, these guys need to go out there and do it. And it goes back to my third point that I was talking about with the keys. It's okay to punt.
So
Waitman, this is your game right here. Hitting yards, pin them inside the 10 when you have the opportunity.
Yep. And Boz we trust, and Waitman too. So hopefully, yeah, like you said, I don't have an issue at all. If it comes down to Chris Boswell, I'm not nervous. Maybe I'm a little nervous, but I have complete faith that Boswell will come through when we need him to come through, if that's the case. Moving on to coaching, man. And this is why you keep a coach like Mike Tomlin. That's why you don't panic if you're the Rooneys and make these rash decisions, because this is where Coach Tomlin thrives. These type of situations with his back against the wall, he has found a way to rally the troops. And these troops look different on a week-to-week basis, right? They're bringing in guys from the practice squad, bringing them to active roster. He's had to do some shuffling and try to glue this team together best way possible. And he got us here. He got us to this point where we're hosting a playoff game, and it's there for the taking. And with that experience, now don't get me wrong, the way D'Amico Ryans is coaching that Houston Texans team, it's nothing short of amazing. How he's been able to go on this 9-game winning streak after struggling to start the year, playing 2 different quarterbacks. He's had to rally the troops as well. But I think when you look at Coach Tomlin and his resume for Monday Night Football specifically, at home, he hasn't lost. And I think this is where he shows all the Steeler Nation, all those doubters out there who've been clamoring because he hasn't won a playoff game since 2017. I think it gets put to rest today. And I think that's why we had the advantage in the coaching, because we have Coach T.
Now, I'm with you on that end, and this is the pupil taking the, going against the teacher. And when you get to this particular point, and I think ultimately, the standard is what Mike Tomlin has done, and obviously DeMarco Ryan having the opportunity is a direct result of the success that Tomlin has had, and it's okay for that particular manner. So you always want to go out there and beat your mentor. And this is going to be something that Ryan is going to want to do. How does he outcoach him in certain situation? It kind of reminds me of that Mike Vrabel, Bill Belichick approach, right? He wanted to go out there and knock off Coach Belichick, which he was able to do up there in Foxborough a couple of years ago when he was with the Titans. But I think where you are now, and we're hoping that that doesn't happen now, but there's going to be something tricky in there. What is it? Whether a fake punt that they may do, fake field goal, something is going to happen that you need to be alerted to. And these are the tendencies that you kind of look back, and Tomlin's going to have to look on that sideline and say, something's not right over there. Keep your defense play. You put your safe defense on the field in the punt situation to make sure that they don't try to take advantage of a fake punt in those situations. So because of those little intricacies of coaching that happens, that analytics cannot buy, instincts sometimes matter, and that comes down to common sense. And I think Coach Tomlin gets the advantage here.
Brother. All right, man. It's game day now. We've said all the words that we need to say, right? We know what this team needs to do. We know, finally, I think we have formed this identity where we know what we do well as a team. Obviously, a lot of it goes as Aaron Rodgers goes, but we both agree we got to run the ball, and we got to put pressure on CJ Stroud, and we got to take care of the ball. I think those are the main 3 things. If we take care of the ball, if we give the ball to the law firm and 30 plus times, and no turnovers, or did I already say that? I think we win the game. And actually, I do got to pull up. We got to do some bets here, CB. You've done pretty good lately, man, but I know, did you have your preseason, or not your preseason, your pregame score?
Yes,
you
we
do that?
talk about it all right now. Yes.
Okay, you can give the people what they want today. All right. So first, the over-under, CB, is 38.5. What do you say?
For me, I'm going over. I know everything is saying under because of the 2 defenses. I think this gets exciting in the 4th quarter with a little bit more scoring that happens. And I think this is going to be the first to 25. And I do have the over in this particular manner.
All right. The spread, the Texans are favored by 3 points. Who covers?
Steelers cover for sure.
Steelers cover for sure. All right. And I want you to pick 2 touchdown scores, both of them for Pittsburgh.
I'm going Freiermuth on 1.
Okay.
And then I'm going Gainwell.
You got Muth and Gainwell. So let me tally this up real quick, CB, because this feels like it might pay something nice. So we got Muth and Gainwell scoring a touchdown, and we got the over and Pittsburgh covering -3. So with a $10 bet, the odds are plus 2,753. It will give you $275.31, CB. I like that parlay. The over, Steelers cover, Muth and Gainwell score. I like the sound of that. And you can't lead the people without a final score. I'll go first. I think this is a game that if we start out, we don't got to start out super fast, but we can't start out slow. I don't want this to get into the 3rd and 4th quarter where it's close again. I think if we come out and we establish the run game early and we put some points on the board early, we can win this game by more than 1 score. I think the final score ends up being 27-17 Pittsburgh.
Okay. When I look at this game, obviously, last few games that the Steelers have played home, they have gotten outscored big time in the first quarter. This cannot happen. They need to figure that out. If they can right the ship in that particular perspective, we feel pretty good about this. But I think as this game moves forward, the reason why I had the over, because I really feel that this game is going to come down to the first one to score 25. And I think the Steelers are able to do that, have a similar score, but not quite as exact as yours. But I do have the Steelers winning this game 27-23.
I like it. I like it. We both have the good guys winning, man. I haven't felt this good about a playoff game that Pittsburgh's been in a long time. Like I said, last year, complete different story. You go into that playoffs limping. That's not the case this year. We got A-Rod back there. He's motivated. We got DK back. You know he's motivated. He wants to go on and put on for his team, because I know he was probably at home licking his wounds a little bit, knowing that there was this chance that he cost us a season. So I think we get him back. We get him back in a big way. And I'm excited, man. I'm excited for the first time. Steeler Nation is going to be rocking tonight, CB. And it is going to be lovely to see. I know you're going to have a late night tonight, but I'm hoping you get happy phone calls about.
That's what I'm hoping for. I really am. They're going to keep me up late. Give me something good to talk about. That's all I'm asking. And I think ultimately just the way that the whole this energy is going to be in the stadium, I'm feeling really good about this particular game. It's going to be a fun game to watch. These guys got to go out there and get that monkey off their back by winning that first playoff game in a long time. So hopefully they can get it done.
I'm looking forward to it, brother. I will see you tomorrow, and I'm hoping it's a happy conversation. Here we go.